Everybody say it mean.
Who's that out there living the dream? Let's blow in the bean. Who's that still smoking all that green? Let's blow in the bean. Come on, y'all, let me hear you scream. Let's blow in the bean. Let's blow in the bean. Let's blow in the bean. Go.
Let's blow the bean. Welcome back. What a heavy-duty weekend of fight talk and fight info going on. We had the UFC retreat. We also had fights fall out, fights pick up. We got matchups for days. Conor McGregor isn't even fighting, and it doesn't matter. We have so much movement in all of the divisions right now that get that Mayweather fight done, make whatever money you're going to make, because all likelihood it's showing with that type of paycheck, anybody's going to take that money. Who wouldn't? Who wouldn't take the type of money they're talking about?
Do you think he's not going to come back?
I think he'll come back. I think it's a one-off. I think Mayweather needs money, and he knows how to hype a fight up, hence this, what we're talking about now. And I think that the fight will happen. It'll be a one-off. Floyd is technically retired and will come off for big paydays, and this is a big payday. Conor has been coming out saying that he's already signed the contract. He just needs Mayweather. And Dana's also been like, hey,
come out and said,
let's do it.
But I think Mayweather, here's the thing right now. Mayweather getting tons of free publicity, making probably personal appearances everywhere he wants to for more money because his name still means something. He's already attracting tons of UFC fans. Like, whether or not they like him, they like to hate him.
Exactly.
So I feel like whatever Mayweather wants out of it, this is what my prediction is on this. I don't think Mayweather's going to sign right away on this. I think it's going to be a long stalemate and a little bit of talking shit, which gives Conor more time, the 9 months he still wants to stay relevant while his, wife and everything with the baby.
Yep.
It also makes Floyd relevant, but I think Floyd's going to sit back. I think he's a smart enough businessman to sit back and see what happens with this next big boxing fight. He doesn't want to be overshadowed. Yep. He doesn't want to, he wants to be the biggest thing talked about in boxing. And, Pacquiao was his last thing?
Yeah, and that really
fight.
was
And Conor's
under
bigger
him.
than Pacquiao. I'm not the most educated fight fan, but
I would agree that Pacquiao did have an amazing amount and a whole country behind him with the Philippines really supporting him. And he still has a big following, but
the Philippines ain't Ireland.
Yeah, I think it's a different level because I feel like Conor's transcending multiple sports now, and also fashion, and not that I care for it, but he's doing it. He's getting paid. Apparently he has a exclusive contract in Ireland with Budweiser, and
weird.
Yeah, exactly. So we don't get the advertisement
unless
here in the States.
Budweiser wants to advertise on the show, in which case America.
I'll drink a Budweiser with Donald Cerrone if you set that up. I'm just saying.
Oh, I'll drink a Bud with Cerrone.
Exactly, you got to.
Cowboy.
Did you ever remember hearing Charles Barkley talking about drinking Budweisers with Donald Cerrone?
No.
So Charles Barkley hung out with Donald Cerrone and said that Donald Cerrone's a crazy man because he drinks Budweiser, and everybody knows Budweiser give you a headache.
Yeah, that's what I think too.
That's exactly what I think, but hey, when you're in the fighting game, you need the hard stuff. You need that hard stuff. But people that drink Budweiser like to drink beer. They're next level.
That is true. I played Golden Tee yesterday a little bit, and I didn't want a beer at all. And then my friend got a Beck's, non-alcoholic Beck's.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, get me one. And I have to be honest, I got a headache afterward. I might as well drink a beer.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't want a beer in the middle of the day. I just wanted to shoot around a Golden Tee, get out, funny. Maybe drink a Coke. Not that that's any better.
Yeah, I could see that. The middle of the day beers just kind of
tire me out.
You have to keep going.
I need a nap after.
Exactly. I feel like when I start, then I have to keep going until the night's done. Not that I get wasted, but maybe have another couple beers throughout the night just to keep that headache away. And that's why I don't drink in the middle of the day. I'm a grown-up.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I'm getting less excited. The longer the Floyd Conor thing goes on, I'm getting less excited about it, but I don't know what I want for Conor to happen in the UFC. It's like the Ferguson thing. I want to see Khabib Ferguson a little more than I want to see Conor versus either of those guys.
That's what I'm saying. There's so many other good fights going on right now. It's just kind of like, get that shit done so we can move on, but got
I don't know
Wolves
if I trust that Khabib couldn't get to the ring.
he just supposedly was posting on the Twitterverse that he was ready to come back, and he got thrashed by a lot of people on his weight and a lot of stuff like that. And it was the first thing they jumped to, but I don't know. We haven't seen anything. He tends to get injured. He really hasn't fought the highest level, Michael Johnson being the highest level of caliber, and he walked right through that opponent. But
6 pounds, I think, is what he missed it by. That's just
that's
a lot.
That's a lot of weight to be having problems
with. It's like
with.
you didn't respect the weight cutting or something ahead of time. Ill prepared.
So it's all whether you believe.
Il Kukui.
There was just El Kukui on the MMA Hour. Did you hear any of that talk? Mm-hmm. Where he was calling out Nick Diaz and saying that money didn't make him soft, and it was just fighter after fighter. Al Iaquinta got on there. He was talking about fighting Tony Ferguson, about quitting the UFC. I mean, they were both pissed about this retreat that was going on. Cyborg punched Magana. Did you hear? You had to have heard about this.
Yes.
Charges filed by Magana in
That's
the state.
That's a bitch move. I can say it.
I would agree 100%.
This is what I don't understand. And I'm naive when it comes to, and I know it's for professional sport, but you are a cyber bully, a cyber pretty girl, that you're sitting there in the high school of UFC mocking somebody. Like, it doesn't matter whether you agree, disagree with any of the statements. It doesn't matter any of that. You're mocking someone and picking on them. Now you see that person to their face, and you're a fighter. It's not like you're a lawyer or a dentist.
Exactly.
You're a fighter, and you want to be a bully online, and you see that person to their face, and then they hit you. That's shitty. Mm-hmm. It's a shitty, cheap shot, but whatever. I think the smartest thing for Magana to do would have been to hit her back. It would have gotten broken up in seconds.
Hell yeah.
She would have gotten it recorded. It would have been online. She would have been immediately 3-fight guarantee in the UFC that you have enough publicity behind your name the UFC wants you.
Uh-huh.
I just think to press charges is ridiculous.
I completely agree, especially when you were the one who instigated.
She should be like, cheap shot, bitch. Let's take that shit into the octagon.
Did you see the tweet that started the entire issue with Cyborg and Magana? Did you see it? She had photoshopped a few photos that said
mean ass shit.
It was mean. It was flat out mean, and she's a true professional. And guess what? She isn't a banker or lawyer. She's somebody who hurts people for a living. What do you expect? I feel like it really just made Magana look bad. This is the other thing that I don't
like about the talking shit of it. Her weight class is an unreachable weight class in the UFC where she's safe in this like bubble. She thought she was never going to run into Cyborg, and if she did, they're not in a weight class where she ever has to worry about fighting her. Right. So I just think it was just a bitch ass move, and suing.
Totally agree.
I don't remember who I saw, but they were like, imagine if John Jones was like, I'm suing DC after he threw the water bottle at him backstage.
Exactly. Or, I mean,
Diaz and Connor. I'm suing Connor.
The legendary shoe. The legendary, like, all of that good, Cormier Jones. What just happened with Lee Chiesa. There's been multiple other people. Even any bitch fight you ever goddamn seen to walk up to. It is something that happens and nobody presses charges, and that just proves the type of person that Magana is, and she's looking like we've said on this.
I bet it doesn't go through. The UFC's got to be like, you don't want to do this. But this is the other thing. For most fighters or for fighters they like, I'd like to think you don't want to do this. They don't like Cyborg. Why aren't they giving her a fucking fight? Megan Anderson, she has more publicity that I've seen any fighter get off Twitter right now for a fight to be called. Her and Cyborg seem to respect each other a bunch. They seem to both want the fight. All the fans want the fight. Well, so I just feel like, what are they not letting Cyborg fight for? Who did she piss off?
It is. I think that there's so much going on in the UFC right now with the stuff that just came out post this retreat. I mean, there was so much news that broke during this with the leaked videos of Magana getting punched by Cyborg and all of the aftermath of it. There was also a panel of Anheuser-Busch, what was the other company there? Reebok, and another big sponsor, and they were talking about how the deal really benefited them. And K. John Johnson, a fighter who hasn't fought for over a year and a half, almost 2 years
K-John?
now. Yeah, he's a Canadian fighter, and I believe 155-pound division. Got up and they
K-John, my
videotaped him.
boo.
He ended up telling the Reebok Budweiser guys off and saying like, "Hey, this deal's screwing us. This deal," and they actually asked him to sit down and
And did you
asked
see
him
our
to quiet
girl,
down.
Leslie Smith?
Yeah.
Did you see her stand up and say, who was she talking to? Somebody famous was there.
Really, I did not.
A famous
I-
basketball player, I think.
Huh.
Or a famous football player. I don't remember who she said it to, but somebody legitly like Michael Jordan. It wasn't Michael Jordan, but somebody like legitimately famous like that in sports. And why did I think it was a football player? I don't fucking know. Don't quote me on it, but you can look up Leslie Smith, and she stands up and says like, pretty much, don't you think that your sport got to the place that it's at? And kind of says, we're fighting for a union.
It was Kobe Bryant and
Kobe.
It was Kobe Bryant. Yeah.
No Jordan.
Yes.
That's
yes.
arguable. That's arguable. I don't think so, but I know there's like so many other people out there that would be like LeBron.
Yeah, Snoop was there too.
Snoop, that would be so cool.
But they own stock supposedly. So they were also there for that.
Yeah.
But either way, what happened, the best thing that happened to that, I know that there was a lot to be said with the fighters sticking up for themselves. And then what happened, the Budweiser guy had an open beer. At like 10 a.m., people are making a big deal about that.
Like he was being a dick to it.
Yeah, people were saying that as well. And they essentially like backtracked a bunch of shit, backed each other up. And what happened is supposedly Reebok and Anheuser-Busch got a couple other bosses or managers together and took the fighters all into another room. They didn't record anything, but they let the fighters actually give out their grievances of what's happening contractually and how it's really affected them in their real lives. And they said that they saw people writing stuff down, and the fighters left with like a positive sense of, okay, someone really listened to us for once. Exactly.
How long has this Reebok deal been going on?
Right, and they're taking a look. 2 years.
And how much longer is it?
4.
Well, at least there's and writing down
Better than now.
I call that
Yeah.
like we'll just validate them a little, give them all pacifiers.
Sure.
We can at least get another year to go by. That
Agreed.
you know.
Agreed.
But it would be really cool to Reebok. One leg for you, one leg for us, and give them new trunks.
Right.
Talk about, I think a grievance for me as if I were a female fighter would be like, could we work on these outfits?
Yep.
Like, and for the men. I have seen more, since Reebok's taken over, I've never seen so many clothing malfunctions.
You wouldn't have your Chuck Liddells, Tito Ortiz, Mirko Krokops. These, you know the shorts I'm talking about because these are specific to those fighters. There is a level of flair. JJ had her own style before they took it away from her.
That is so true.
Carla Esparza had singlets before they took it away from her.
And I like that.
Yeah, I loved it too. KK was fucking gangster. I love KK's look. And if you saw Lindy Danios, who just fought and lost recently, she had a really cool pinup style.
Valentina Shevchenko looked different,
Yeah.
not in her Reebok gear. Everyone.
I loved it. Loved it. Donald Cerrone, very specific.
Even the iconic
Cowboy hat.
people, like, yeah.
Yeah, but he still has his head, I guess. He just
Yeah.
can't, well. Tons of other fights that
No
have
one
also
likes that
fun
Reebok
fans.
deal.
Yeah,
We
exactly.
ain't saying nothing new.
Exactly.
mean,
Have you seen one of those shirts on the street?
Who would wear Reebok?
I
I'm
would-
not into it. Not into Reebok.
Yeah, it is a different thing. I don't know why.
You know who would wear it? My mother. My mother, she rocked a pair of high top Reeboks like most of my childhood. They were so like twisted Reebok high tops. And they were like pink and white. I don't know. Not so much into the Reebok kit.
Yeah, I would agree. It's never been a style that I've been super heavy on.
I would rock some Converse.
Definitely classics. Definitely a good look. I don't see where you could
Got
go
my
wrong with
black
anything.
chucks on. Got my black chucks on. What were you talking about?
The retreat, any other stuff that came up out of it. Alaya Quinta supposedly was a dick and left early. Miles Vidal was also there.
You know, I really like El Kukui. I like him.
Yep.
I feel like he has a good heart, and I think he's a good person. He's so corny.
I think he's very wrestler promo-y now. He's getting into again, he's elite for a reason, and it ain't because he's not a bad talker. It's a little weird. Why is it so weird? What would you put your finger on that just comes off a little corny?
I don't believe he's scared ever. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think that's like where he's like, oh, he's totally faking it because he's scared.
Uh-huh.
I don't think that. I just feel like he is. You know, people that are geniuses at anything, how they're just off.
Yeah, we were saying that.
That's
in a
what I think about
podcast.
Tony Ferguson.
I totally agree. I think that
he concentrates everything about his life is his body and fighting, and I think he's one of those guys that's like, he could be ready quick.
Yeah.
He could, if need be, if the biggest fight came up, like Tony Connor says Floyd pulled and we're going to have this big fight, we're putting it on anyway, we want to put you on in a month. I think he'd be like, I can be ready. Like, I think he's a guy that stays that fit.
Uh-huh.
But, I don't know, he's just corny. He's just...
I agree.
But not in the same way that Kevin Lee's corny.
With the corniness that comes with Tony Ferguson, you can be weird and goofy when you're that skilled of a fighter. Like, you're like, okay.
You know, I think he's trying to be a heel and he's a nice guy. Maybe that's it.
I don't think he's trying to be a heel. And he is a nice guy, but it's so over the top kind of a nice weird guy. But now he started to cuss in interviews and be like, fuck all these guys, fuck DS, fuck... Like, he started to do that, but he's almost in the DJ realm at times. No. And the popularity, I guess he's a total fan favorite, but he does come off as...
DJ realm.
Yeah.
Demetrius Johnson realm.
Yes.
Demetrius Johnson versus Dillashaw realm.
Oh, now
That's the fight so much. To me, I'm more excited about this than Garbrandt Dillashaw.
So Dana White came out as of yesterday, I believe, and said it's off. And we knew that Cody was getting stem cell injected into his back. That was all online, and you can just look that up real quick. He's getting shots right in his back. Apparently, it didn't work. So
come on, America, get behind the medical times.
Exactly, a little bit of CBD oil.
If you're gonna force the entire country to buy a private company's product, can you make it decent? That's like, can you make it some decent insurance that we can get some stem cells in here because it's really doing some good on athletes. So why would it not do good on a 65-year-old person? But you know what? I figured it out just now in my head. Because then we can't sell you an artificial hip that you have to keep getting stuff done to.
Exactly. There's no profit in it. It's a cure-all.
We can't even get into this. We'll have drones outside our window.
Well, maybe the CIA will be our first sponsor. So they can get it out of the...
I know. Or the FBI. Maybe they need the good publicity right now.
Oh, what is the stamps? What they're usually on everybody's?
Stamps.com. Blue Apron. Blue Apron.
How would it sound? Just throwing it out there.
Anyways, that's other topics for another day. But Dillashaw, TJ.
That is the
DJ Dillashaw.
actual money fight that DJ potentially think has been looking for. And I think stylistically, yeah, that's a really fun fight.
That's a pay-per-view.
What weight, though? That would be the
pay-per-view.
tough thing. I think TJ said he could get to 125, but he never even wrestled 125. He wrestled 135. He's never made 125 ever. So would it be a catch weight at 130? It's proposed to DJ, and I don't think there's been a response yet.
But DJ, I feel like it's a great fight, but DJ doesn't need to do it now because he's trying to break records.
It's the toughest fight for him out of his division, though. It's not in his division, where if he fights anyone in his division, he breaks the record. And then he can fight TJ. But they're trying to save this card. So it's a short notice fight. And that's, I think, a detriment. Even though DJ's amazing, you got a game plan for TJ well. And it's not hard to make him look bad. It's just a very dangerous fight for him. Very, very dangerous fight.
I think I'd pick Dillashaw in that fight.
I could see the reasons of why I'm going to stick with the champ just because he's next level, but I would like for him to have a normal camp for a fight like that and for it to be shortened at any given time. But he's the type of athlete that will step in on... How long would it be until that fight would come up? Is it...
I think it would be in replace of the Cody fight.
6 weeks? 8 weeks?
Maybe 2 months, but doesn't DJ seem like he stays in shape?
Yeah, in fairly good shape, and I think he does 12, 13-week camps, which is Yeah, like a couple months, 3 months-ish.
And I don't know about cycles where their body hits their most.
Their peaks
So,
and stuff,
yeah.
and they think about it like there's reasons of why some people don't take short notice fights, and you tend to see people that are breaking into the UFC that have to take 5 days fight notice is because that's what you got to do. People that will take any advantage, they'll prepare, and you need to prepare for TJ Dillashaw. You cannot fight him short notice. I think he has very unique angles.
I don't think it's ducking at all.
I agree. I don't think it's
I
necessarily
don't think
ducking.
anyone's. I just would want to break my records and be like, "There's that fight later, homie."
Yeah, I agree.
Like we're both getting bigger and bigger names every time we fight. There's no need that we can save that for a gigantic pay-per-view.
I'm thinking it's the UFC trying to push this fight because they're trying to save their card and not thinking of the career. Where, of course, they were going to want to save the card. That makes total sense.
See, that's where
that would
the
be a fun
UFC
fight.
is crazy. This is where they're crazy to me. To me, I would invest in a couple of stars.
They have Ronda.
Yeah, but like it's
John
such a
Jones?
few amount. I think there's like really John Jones, Ronda, Connor,
Yep.
DC.
Mm-hmm.
Like you
Cruz.
can count them on your hands.
Joe Bam.
And where I feel like there's some other fighters that, like the Fergusons, that you could really put some money behind, like the Holloway Aldo fight.
But like we're saying, I don't know if it was prior to this, that the UFC can't rely on Aldo. That he's fallen out of too many fights, too many big money fights where they've done millions of dollars of promotions.
This is
to
where
have
the
it fall
UFC is
out.
silly to me. They need to already, when they're setting up a huge card like this, you have Jose Aldo versus Tony Ferguson, or little Tony Ferguson, Max Holloway. You have this fight coming up. Why would you not have a fighter on reserve to replace either guy at notice that both guys already sign a contract for that they know potentially could replace the other person? Like, why wouldn't they plan it on a business scale, not so these cards don't collapse?
But
like
what we were saying
quicksand?
with DJ, it would be hard. The fight camps would want to have to do it, and there's camps that are set in their ways that are
The
we won't let
fighter that
somebody
you
fight.
have on reserve
Uh-huh.
is obviously a good enough fighter to fill whatever super fights that you do. You wouldn't do it for every fight, just the big ones, just
Right.
like the big three
And
or
they've
big
done
five.
it before. They have warned
if,
people.
If all three fighters make it to the fight card and
Yep.
healthy, then you get to add a fight. Even if it's against a schlub, like you have your one star that was healthy enough to be the fill-in,
Right.
ready to fight some schlub off the street. You don't even care who the other fighter is, or he could be an up-and-coming guy, but a guy that's ready to step in for it.
Yeah.
And then you can have him fill it on the prelims. Your undercard, all of a sudden, it's another big fight added to the night because they're just excited to see the celebrity fighter in the ring. And it's just one more check off on their list, and we get to see some up-and-coming fighter for the first time against a monster. I don't know. I don't think it's a bad idea.
I don't think it's a bad idea.
They always have potential to add one fight when
Yeah.
they lose, because they always lose one, too, especially toward the main event. Some people can't handle the pressure.
As much as I'm saying that fighters want to be in camps, there is the fighters that are like, no, I stay ready year round. When there's cards announced, I'm going to stay ready because I know someone might fall out and I'm ready to take that next step. It all depends on whether the other opposing fighter wants to take that fight. And that is a mentality that some fighters use. And it's a wonderful mentality. I mean, you stay ready. It's just sometimes, can your body keep up with year-round training like that? We do know Tony has fallen out of a fight or two for fluid in his lung because of overtraining, supposedly. It's all changing. The UFC also has the UFC gym that's starting up in that franchise where they're actually promoting fighters to come in and work out with them. So when they fly into town, they're going to have spaces, but they're also going to have other structures to somehow make money. It's a really interesting venture. I haven't looked into it much, but I know that they actually have the gyms built, and they're actually looking for fighters to come and be like, hey, be here regularly so when other fighters come,
This
you can
gets
teach
sketchy
them.
to me.
It's weird.
Because when the
Promotionally.
business mixes, and the conspiracy mind in me, I already think somehow USADA, it's just the people
USADA's hanging out on the corner smoking a cigarette.
No, I think USADA has an office inside the UFC. I think it's more so like the fights that fall. It's like you never know who gets pissed off at the wrong time that loses the fight because they said the wrong thing or did the wrong thing, and then the people that are replaced or get away with certain things like IV bags before fights or company men. So all of a sudden the UFC has its own gym. fighting a UFC fighter that comes from inside that UFC gym becomes like fighting like Khabib in Russia, where you have no idea what the drug policy is going to be for that fighter. Are they going to have different rules than you? Are the judges going to be a little more on their side? Are the refs like, I don't know. There's just too many. I think there needs to be more hands in play inside the ring as far as judging, and maybe even doing instant replay. But I do not think fighters need to fight out of the company that they fight for. It's so effing weird. It's almost like American Idol.
Yeah. So that is what's happening. Is they're fighting like every Tuesday or something like that at the gyms? So with this promotional thing, they're also starting a series where fighters from the UFC are going to be fighting for their contracts at these gyms as well.
I mean, give me the reality TV, you know? I love me.
So they're going to put this also, I don't know if it's on the Netflix deal or on the Fight Pass deal. But
I mean, I'm in.
That's what they're doing.
Or UFC TV, okay, but I just think it's an odd...
I totally agree with you. And the UFC, though, is big enough now that they're looking at the paperwork. They have offices of lawyers that they're like, what are we going to do? What does it take to do this? And they start implementing it, and then they roll out with the project once it's legal at their point in their history. They're a full-on company. They're a multi-billion-dollar company with heavy-duty hitters in there. Snoop Dogg! They got Snoop Dogg on board. That's some deep pockets. He got that weed money. You know he's got some deep-ass pockets all
You got Snoop Dogg?
Yeah, exactly. He's out there pepping up your fights.
See, we're investing in more equipment, and I will be able to just fade that in anytime we talk about Snoop Dogg. We'll have a couple songs we're able to fade in when we talk about certain people.
Yeah. Other fight that got announced was Baby Pettis fighting Moreno. I think it's at 214 coming up. I think Pettis is coming because of who fell out? Cejudo.
What do you think about this?
Crickets. You don't care about this fight?
No. What do you?
What
do you think about who's gonna win? I love Moreno.
I think Moreno's got this fight.
I
think Moreno's got this fight. But I was thinking it's a funner fight than Cejudo. Is it not?
Yeah.
It's a way funner fight. I'm like, ooh,
Wasn't
this
that
is
supposed
really
to happen
interesting.
on the last fight card?
Yeah, he broke his hand like 2 weeks before, fell out the days before, and it's like, you knew 2 weeks ago.
I like this. I like Moreno. I think he's a fun underdog. Yep. He could be a Leslie dog. Leslie Smith.
Baby Pettis, his skills are technical, and he's gotten his cardio skills there, and he's a never evolving
fighter. And just so
fighter.
people know, I mean, he's the Leslie Smith underdog pick on this. I just have a prediction that Sergio Pettis will come in Baby Pettis will come in as the Sergio.
Yeah,
will
Sergio.
Come in as the favorite on this. I don't mean like they have a similar fighting style. We just have Leslie Smith underdog pick.
Totally. If he's the underdog, all the way.
2 steps back real fast.
Yeah.
El Cucuy versus Iaquinta. Interesting.
Agreed. Totally love that fight.
I love this fight too. I like Iaquinta
I like his... Yes, exactly. I just love everything he's saying. He is very genuine, very authentic. Anytime he's getting on the mic right now, he's creating waves. And he's saying stuff that other fighters wish they could say. And he has such a reckless attitude towards it. Because he's like, I'm selling 5 houses. Anytime he gets on the mic, he promotes his real estate company. And that's him using his media to his benefit instead of just saying, well, I'm going to go back to training. I'll see you guys later. Like, he's making $100,000 every time he gets on the mic with somebody who already has 1 million followers.
Smart.
Exactly.
Next level thinking.
And the thing is that he comes off a little bit of hanging with the boys.
He is a little douche. But I also think he's smart. And I don't think the UFC should be harsh on the fighters that are anti-company. They want to be an entertainment. There's no entertainment without conflict, and there has to be conflict everywhere.
Totally.
Like, it's interesting that the Diaz brothers have mild conflict with Dana all the time, and it's interesting that they call the Fertitta brothers, or sometimes Dana makes mention still that the Fertitta brothers call in to make, like, all this background shit with the UFC. Like, what we're talking about now, this shit's interesting. The fights this weekend, meh.
There's some interesting bouts on the card.
There's some interesting stuff,
Totally.
but sometimes I feel like it's just as interesting what's happening between
The
bouts.
lines. Yeah, I agree. I totally agree.
And I think other people do too, and I think that's why the sport's getting bigger. That's the wrestling of it, the real life.
Yes.
It's the reality show.
And
of
we have the
UFC.
cameras, and we know how easy it is to be able to get it on screen now. Though, how do you feel? This is a question. How do you feel about people videotaping at this convention? Because it is not a public function. This is private company that it's unsaid thing to be like, don't record what we do here because it's for you. It's not for the world. And they released this cyborg footage, whether it was assault or not, or they released K-John cursing at these people about the deal that they're getting screwed with.
I watched some of the other fighters, like I watched them do the punching machine,
Right.
The arcade punching machine. So I watched other stuff go on way before I even saw the cyborg alleged hit, because I didn't get to see it. Somebody was in the way,
Right.
So I'm gonna say alleged because I'm hashtag Team Cyborg. So, and that's how I roll. Snitches get stitches. Like I ain't even messing around. Cyborg's go.
And how many other fights
But the other
have gone to blue? God, we already talked about
this is I feel about that doing the video, that bullshit. I
Yep.
feel about it the same way I do across any format. I don't want to be at the park with people videotaping me. I don't want to be driving down the road with people videotaping me. I don't want to be I already think Big Brother's everywhere. So I already hate it. So I feel like it's already everywhere. So everyone knows there's cameras everywhere. And for the UFC, it's not hurtful that Paige Van Zant's on her Periscope.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're getting bigger every second that she does that.
Right.
It's not hurtful that Derek Lewis is on his Periscope.
And I was actually gonna go into a person who's doing it amazingly right now is Derek Lewis with his candid interviews of having to take a poop after getting hit in the body, even though he came out and was like, I actually broke 2 ribs in that, and I was just saying that because I was whatever. But I listened to him on 3 different interviews, and he was just giving every host a bit of shit back. He seemed like your uncle. Like, he was not being professional talking about other fights. He's like, man, I tell you guys, I'm not the most technical guy, but I got the most heart in there, and I can't take that away from him. He's been hurt in many of his fights that I've seen.
By monsters.
Yeah, and he can give up, and other people give up before he does, and that's a testament to his will. And it's true, his skills are not the best, but he lands those hams on
I
you.
actually have a Derek Lewis quote on my things to talk about today.
Oh, perfect.
Derek Lewis blasts at Francis Ngannou. Forget that African booty scratcher. It's been a long time since I heard somebody call somebody else an African booty scratcher.
I do remember that from back in the day.
Or snatcher.
It is a good one.
Booty snatcher. I always thought it was scratcher, but maybe it was snatcher.
I would love to see that black on black crime, as also Derek Lewis put it in himself.
He's a funny guy.
Exactly. He's just somebody who would be hanging out with you bullshitting, and I've met other people that are in that same boat, and they tend to be African American, and they're good people. They're fun.
Bean loves the African Americans.
Exactly.
They're good people.
All people. I love all people. There ain't a race I don't like. So
Back to UFC.
we have Yoel Romero falling out with Bisping because Bisping's knee all of a sudden that he doesn't have the GSP fight
can't
is
even
like,
walk.
oh, all of a sudden I can't walk. And Yoel took a fight versus Bobby Knuckles himself, Robert Whittaker. Hell of a fight. It's for an interim belt.
I'm more excited about that fight than...
I agree. It's for an interim belt because Yoel's demands were met. And we will remember how we were saying, I wonder what they're going to do because it sets a precedent for other fighters. Ferguson, all these other contenders that are waiting on people to get in, and they're like, no, you give me an interim belt. What does that create? A bigger payday for them? And that's why they're asking for the belt, because it comes with bigger money, more promotion, and we're growing like everybody's making their grabs if they can or can't, and everybody's realizing right now, like, you got to ask or no one's going to do it for you. And people are asking, and people are doing it in a lot of different ways.
I think social media is paying off, and the fighters that are realizing how it works
Yep.
are getting what they want from social media because they see the fans are reposting it and people care.
And then they can monetize even that social media because that's the world we live in. Like, they're building
Who you
their
got
money
right
off their
now,
name.
Yoel Romero or Robert Whitaker?
I'm gonna go with Bobby Knuckles.
Me too. All day.
That's tough
But
though.
here's the
I can go
question.
back and forth on that.
Is Robert gonna get poked in the eye? Is he gonna get kicked in the nuts?
Is he gonna get
Stool
oil
Gate
check?
gonna happen?
Is he gonna get oil
he
check?
Yeah, is he gonna get a little...
If we've seen any fighter have awkward things happen in the ring, it is Yoel Romero. It is that Cuban curse, as some might say. It's a fun fight. It's a fun fight, regardless. Even if it is a show every time he's on, we talk about it because it was something crazy has happened.
Okay, Jesus. Yeah, he's entertaining.
Exactly.
I don't even love to hate him anymore. I just enjoy. I like how he walks in the ring, and I like how he does his he does Hitler high kicks in the ring with his
Yes.
hand to his head.
Me too.
That shit is great.
I
and I don't
totally
mean that he's
agree.
doing Hitler high kicks is great. It's just the only way I knew how to describe it on the radio. That has it. Goose step. He does his goose step.
It is pretty dope because
Boom.
he's a monster.
Boom.
He's a scary individual.
I know, he looks crazy, but he's stockier. I always think he's enormous until the fighter he's fighting against is in the ring next to him, and then I'm like, oh, he's short, he's square.
Yeah, but he's twice as wide as of guys that are 200-something pounds as well. Like, they all cut down. Like, they're big guys. So, that's a hell of a fight. I can't wait for that. That's a fun fight. Interim belt or not, give me that fight. I don't give a shit. But good for them. They're going to both be making money because now Whitaker's also contending for that interim belt.
What do you think about Luke? Old Lukey boy. Who does Luke fight next? Do you think give Bisping? Is that what happens next?
Well,
do you cry baby Luke Rockhold?
What's going to happen to Bisping? Because now he's coming out with a knee injury, so now the division is essentially hold up on that. So now the interim fight has to happen, and then we have to see whether Bisping can be back in time to have some sort of fight, because the interim belt holder has to have the next step. He can't fight somebody else. He has to fight Bisping as soon as Bisping's available. He just can defend the interim belt until the champ's there. So
Rockhold Souza?
I like that fight. I think Souza has the first one, but it was a decision in Strikeforce. And I think Rockhold's called for that. I'd like to see that fight.
I'd like to see it. It's a good way to get some momentum going.
Well, Rockhold's been to calling Dana some liar, and what was he tweeting about that Dana came back at him? We talked about
Dana was like, "You got knocked out in the first round."
Yeah.
What leg do you have to stand on?
He kind of got you by the balls there, homie.
What leg do you have to stand on? You got knocked out in the first round.
So, as for...
I want to see Rockhold again. I miss Rockhold. It's been a while. Damn.
I agree, but he also was injured
And
right
if I'm
after
the
it.
UFC, honestly, as much as I just know how the business side of things works, I keep Michael Bisping with that belt as long as I can, because I think the audience he brings behind that belt is bigger than any of the other guys could carry.
Uh-huh.
He's interesting on the mic. He sells fights. He has a whole country behind him. He's a mild movie star, like C-list, C+, B-list actor.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like he has some things going for him. Bisping, I think he's a company man. I think they like him.
I totally agree, and I think that he has done a lot of favors because he came in and won that fight on 10 days' notice.
And now the next question.
And everyone thought he was going to lose that fight.
What the F do we do with GSP? If
That's
Floyd
my real
does
question.
Sign, what do we do with
That's
GSP?
my real
we got
question.
GSP back. That cost us an arm and a leg. You know
Yeah.
it did. What do we do with him?
I totally agree.
What do you think?
I think that
Yeah,
GSP has to... because he stepped away with the belt, he can come in for a title contendership against Woodley right away. He can. And nobody can say anything about it because he never lost the belt. I stand that is a fair play. And
Damian Maia gets that fight.
it's between him and Damian Maia. So GSP likes to take a little bit of time,
money
though.
fight, not because rankings mean shit anymore in the UFC. I just think money fight. What do you think about GSP versus Nate Diaz?
Diaz has
Just
said
for money.
for over a year. They're not going to fight for over a year. And GSP wants to fight within the year. So I think the Diaz brothers are out. He came out and said it himself on the MMA Hour a while ago. And he's just like, he's there into bike racing and he's a triathlete. And he's specifically saying he's a fighter so he can fund being a triathlete because it's expensive. And I think that's getting to the weird level of like, okay, listen to what he's really saying. And if he wants to do that, okay, the division will move on. There's other fights that'll happen.
What is GSP's next move?
I think it's
a money fight for GSP.
I mean, anybody will want to fight him, but I think he's gonna get.
It's not Connor, which was my last week's prediction, but I just think if that's the fight everybody wants.
I think that Mayo can take.
Money, but I don't think it's.
I think T Wood was saying that he was going to start training a little while ago to get ready for a fight because he thought one was going to come to him short notice. And I think Maya, even though he gets in the fights he does, he never takes too much damage.
Have you seen T Wood's training for Maya?
Did he jump on Maya's back in a tweet or something?
Or he jumped on his back in that UFC conference, but there's all the video going around of it's like me training for my Damian Maya fight, and he has a book bag on with 190 pounds.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's him doing everything he does, his punches, his weights, his everything with just a book bag on his back. It's pretty great. 190 pounds just on his back, and he's going through his whole regimen in a day.
That's funny. That's good publicity.
It's brilliant, though, too. It's actually smart training.
Yeah, for reals.
Yeah, going through all your kicks and.
But we talked about that. That's a fight that even T Wood could have within a month or two because they both can sign for that fight quickly because Maya didn't even take that much damage in this fight, and then GSP can be around that corner because I think even if T Wood loses or wins, it'll be short. I think T Wood will knock out Maya. Maya submits T Wood, so T Wood would be fine either way.
I picked T Woods in that fight. Here's something. I'm going to say something about T Woods that I don't think he gets enough props. I think his ring IQ is insane, and no one's giving him credit for it.
I think he's doing really good
I don't
things.
necessarily think
he's
John Jones, Conor McGregor, like these, but I think he's up there with Tony Ferguson. I think he is a smart guy in the ring. I just think going 5 rounds with Wonder Boy, and how you've really taught me that sometimes it's a fighter to make another fighter look bad. Like how bad they made each other look is really a testament to how great they both are. More so than how bad they both are.
Exactly.
So I feel like Wonder Boy was so. He was so up there. Not that people don't still respect him and think he's so dangerous and awesome, but I feel like he didn't get to show any of that against T Woods. I think T Woods has some. That's ring IQ to be against, because I just think Wonder Boy is one of the guys with crazy ring IQ. So to go in against another chess player of that level and pull out 2 5-round decisions, that's pretty amazing.
I agree. I think that he is a top-level fighter.
He gets no respect.
I feel like I've seen
T Wood's Dangerfield. He gets no respect.
Yeah. And why? He was initially saying that it was because of his skin tone, but I think that it is just him. It's some people got it, some people don't, and you can have all the credit. You can be an Olympian, and now the Olympian is finally turning it around and getting it, but he didn't get it for a while. Why don't you like me? Well,
don't ask.
Exactly.
Don't
and
beg.
I feel like
never beg.
T Wood kind of begged by having that cop out that UFC isn't promoting me because I'm black, and everyone's like, that's bullshit. Like, because he's saying, well, people don't this and that, and it's that same mentality of like, we're asking for it. It's not gonna come. But now that he's been winning top-level fights, people are starting to say, hey, T Wood as a contender to be a top-level all-time great because he has destroyed people that nobody else can touch. And, yeah, it is going to be a hell of a fight either way. I can't wait to see anybody fight T Wood. Doesn't matter who it is. I like a lot of matchups for him.
You just never know what I feel like he's becoming an unpredictable fighter.
Yeah.
He's becoming that doesn't just have a stand-up, he has a ground. And he has good defense, and he has good offense. I feel like
power, tons of power.
tons of power.
Exactly.
A great sprawl.
Exactly.
Like his legs are enormous.
A
like
family man, a hard worker, dedicated, a national wrestler. Like you
a
could go
man
on for
of
days.
faith.
Exactly. Is he?
I think he's a good American role model.
I would agree, and he actually works a
Not
lot
that
with his
I care
community.
about being a man of faith. I just think he's probably a really good person. He seems like but I think he did have a really hard youth. I think he went,
He
had a
talked
fun
about
youth.
it. He talked about he went to juvie
Come a
and
long
stuff.
way.
Yeah,
Fighting
yeah,
did
yeah.
a lot for him.
Well, wrestling and then fighting came with it, but just combative sports. And he's talked about how dedicated.
Give Woodley a chance.
I agree.
Give Woodley a chance.
He's proven it.
Let him be one of your champions.
And how about Rory walking through Paul Daly in Bellator this last weekend? Did you see any of that or hear about it?
That is on my list as well to talk about. I like Rory McDonald all of a sudden.
Yeah.
I know everybody loved him in the UFC. I wasn't.
How much he's making? Did you hear how much he's making?
No.
With very few sponsors? $400K. His partner accidentally said it because he never said it, but his partner was like, yeah, he made $400K for this fight with Bellator. And very few sponsors, which is a calculated, but I think that's next level thinking, where he limited to Monster and only a few other spots. He's looking for quality, not quantity, as far as his shorts go.
Well, when you're making $400K, now all of a sudden you just need to fight twice a year, and you can give your family a great living.
Yeah.
You can pay
Or
for
three
all your
times
food.
if you want
can
to,
pay
if
for
you're
all your
good.
training. You can have your time
Yep.
off. You can put money away to save. You can have a good American life.
Yep.
And you're having, essentially you're going to death's door every time you put yourself in the ring.
Especially this young man, who's still only 25, 26 years old.
So, yeah, and really, if you're smart about it, you don't want to fight until you're 35. You want to get out by the time you're like 32.
I would say right around that age, 32, 33. Some people are going prolonged, but we always have our questions with some of those people. Other than the heavyweight division, that tends to be a little bit older. So...
Real quick, Aldo Holloway. You still have Holloway right now, just off the top of your head?
Still got Holloway. Still got Holloway. That has
too.
not changed. And that's right around the corner as well. That's not this coming up weekend. That is next weekend. And that's a pay-per-view this weekend. We actually have UFC Fight Night Stockholm. How do you feel about this Sunday card starting at 10 a.m. Here on the Eastern Coast? I believe it's 7 a.m. Pacific.
I'm excited to watch Misha fight again.
Shurkanov? He was almost to Bellator.
I think this is the fight. I know we're going to get there, but I don't think... I think this is the fight, really, that we see the last of Chris Camozzi in being any kind of threatening way to UFC fighters.
Uh-huh.
And I also think it's the fight that makes or breaks... Alexander Gustafsson,
Headlined by Gustafsson versus Teixeira.
Yeah, I think it's the fight that we see if he's going to expand on what he already was. Like, is he going to have a bigger skill set? Is he going to be dangerous? And he's still a young guy.
Yeah.
So I want to...
He still has a lot of potential. He's just had a couple...
But if nothing new, if we don't see anything new against Teixeira,
Yep.
I feel like, where does he go from here?
I think that's a very good point, and I feel like we are going to get there. And it's just some of the... One of the fights to highlight, that is the main event. It's going to be the 5-rounder, and I think it's going to be held nighttime their time in Stockholm. There's going to be some fighters on here that are going to be debuting because it's a European card, so they tend to get more people out of Europe because the travel isn't... They don't have to fly them over because they have to fly over some of these other fighters. And if you could get local talent... And they do have European fighters that do train out of Europe that can't always come to America due to just visa issues and other stuff. So this is a fight card that has to happen. It is going to be on Fox. It's going to be easy to get.
There's some up-and-comers on this card.
Definitely. There's some
people
fun fights.
that where you'll be talking about 2 years from now.
Totally.
Be in contention.
They're highlights and you'll be like, I don't remember that card. Oh, yeah, because it was Sunday morning and...
Because it was UFC
Europe.
Stockholm.
Yeah, exactly.
So, let's talk about the card. Did we make yeah.
We start the night off or the morning off with Machine
And we're
Hound.
going to murder these are some crazy names.
And because we're in Europe. Exactly. So bear with us, America. and world, I guess. We don't know who's listening. Darmir Hadvodzik. And I believe Hadvodzik has a fight in the UFC and he's 10-3. Machine Held definitely comes in with a much more caliber fighter to his credentials, losing to, I believe it was Diego Sanchez in a split decision, and other top level guys. He moved over from Bellator where he was a big name, and his jiu-jitsu hasn't transferred over as well. But I think that Hadvik is definitely the caliber that he can get out of there. He definitely is going to be the favorite, and I think the jiu-jitsu is going to be the main factor. Held can get a level fighter of that level to the ground and do what he needs to do when he dives in with all of those knee and leg submissions that he does. Diego Sanchez, much higher caliber of fighter. He can withstand a lot of that stuff and keep a high pace. I feel like they're giving Held a fight he can win because I think he's on a 2-fight streak right now. Do you have any comments on this fight?
I totally agree. I think, Held submission round 2 right now. I don't have my card in front of me. And a lot of these fighters, but I know I've seen Held fight a few times in the UFC, and I was actually surprised that he's the first fight of the night compared to some other names on this card. I thought his name was relatively bigger than
he
being
was on
the first
co-main
fight of the
events.
night.
He lost co-main events against Diego and Joe Lozon. I think he lost like a co-main event too, or feature bouts. Like
He's
for him to
also a
start the
young
night
guy.
off. Right, for him to start the night off, I also thought was a peculiar spot for him in the fight.
I think I'll put Held. I don't know what his cost is right now on the DK or on the. You said Held was a heavy favorite?
I was checking the lines, but the internet went out on us. I think the storm.
Oh, no. Okay, well, whatever. We don't need no stinking internet.
True.
We'll be fine. We'll be fine without it. Uh-oh. Can we get back to our fight card?
Well, that's what I was thinking, but I could pull it up on my phone and just read
Oh.
the card.
Back to the
here.
old LTE.
Yep, exactly. Huh. Hey, we got a heavy-duty storm coming through. If you just severe
If you're in the
storm
southeast
warning.
of the country, you know all about it. There is a massive system. So
It's going to be that
I
time
was
of
actually
year.
going to say, I hope it doesn't knock out the internet, but I didn't want to jinx it.
So the LTE will come through. Moving on to the next fight, and that last fight was going to be at 155 pounds. I'm going with Held as well. Decision. That could go in a finish type of a situation. Moving on to the next fight at 170 pounds, we have Darren Till versus Jesse Aria.
You know what I know about Held? What I think of when he is pale.
Yes, he is white. He is very
pale
white.
Man.
I would totally agree with that. This fight, I definitely have liked Darren Till's striking a bit more. He is coming off of the Australian scene. He was on the show. He definitely lost in a draw versus Dobley in their last fight, and I lost. I guess he split a fight in a draw. It's one of the few draws that we saw, and it was a back and forth. I feel like he had a bad gas tank, a really bad gas tank, and that's going to be the deciding factor.
But against
in most of his
Dalby.
fights. Right. Dalby pushes a pretty good
He's a
pace.
grinder.
He is known to be a grinder, but he put Dalby in a lot of bad spots, and
You know what's funny though? I don't know why I think that Till's going to be a heavy favorite on this. I wish we could look at all of it. I remember this one, whatever this fight is, whoever the favorite, I had the underdog on it. And it was because of cardio.
And that would be Till's number one issue that I would go with. That has been what I noticed, that hopefully he though takes a step from fighting somebody, a grinder like that, and realizing, hey, I need my cardio because what I did last time didn't work, and I need to fight at that level. And that's where young fighters take big steps, because Yair is going to take a big step and say, hey, I thought my ground game was good because I was using it against guys that didn't know how to beat the living crap out of me with elbows. I got to get better. And he's growing from it. I think that Till could have also be in that situation. Till is a minus 335 favorite against I fucking am butchering. Ayr.
Ayari.
Yeah, Ayari. So,
Is it this fight that I have Ayari, or I went back and forth on it? Oh, I have till decision.
mm-hmm.
Okay, on to the next fight. Sorry, we had some issues with the technical difficulties for a minute and losing power and whether or not we could mess around with equipment that was recording us at the same time as using it online. Anyway, back to the program. Next fight.
Next fight from that, we have a welterweight bout at 170 pounds. Nico Masoki versus Bohan Volkovic. And Serbian Steel, we'll go by Serbian Steel, is coming off of a loss. He definitely lost to Sultan Aliyev in a split decision. It was a fight that looked like both fighters against other fighters aren't going to go as far in the UFC if they didn't make changes to their game. It was a good contested bout, but I think that Masoki is definitely more tested, has a great standing, striking, and good takedown defense. And I think Masoki has the advantage is standing and can keep it standing if he wants to. He's a slight favorite at a minus 140 right now. So a lot of the other bettors are coming in as well on Masoki. And I can see why. Volkovic.
I have Masoki decision right now.
Yeah, it's going to be maybe the Serbian Steel's last fight in the UFC. I think in this division at 170
We have enough of those
pounds.
kind of guys.
Exactly. I think that this is a tough test for him. This is make it or break it for him in this division. They usually give him 2 and they're out. And it's definitely a hard fight, a much harder fight for him than it is Masoki. But yeah, easier call of the night. There's definitely more interesting bouts. Moving on to the next fight, we have at lightweight Renzo Madadi versus Joaquin Silva. I'm pretty excited about this. Madadi's always a lose one, win one, lose one, win one. He is a guy who came off of a prison rap and made a debut and I believe won a fight and then lost his last fight. He's a little bit older. He's been in the competitive scene for a long time, but Joaquin Silva has been making a name for himself in the UFC. He's an up-and-coming fighter out of Brazil that won a split decision versus Maguire and beat Holbrook in a TKO, and I think that Holbrook TKO is where the money's coming in on him. Silva's striking is powerful. He's definitely a standing striking fighter, Muay Thai based. His takedown defense is going to be tested against Madadi. If he gets taken down, Madadi's game is to get in that top position and just hold you in the guard and just grab and pound you wrestling.
GMP.
Exactly. So I think that the minus 185 favorite is just. I just see Madadi is starting to go in a long career with a lot of hardship. That this is an easy fight. It's not an easy fight by any means, and I think Madadi is not going to make it. I go KO round 1 for Silva. In this
Wow.
fight. Yeah, I really like this guy. He has power and good fundamental technique with
I
OKT
only had
fights.
Silva decision, and I just changed it while you were talking because I just, I like Madadi a lot. I think his experience inside the ring, I think he's somebody it's by far the biggest test for Silva's career to me. And
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to have the cardio that Madadi has. I think this is a crazy heavy favorite. I mean, I know the betting lines right now are 185.
Yep.
But looking at it on Tapology, 71% of people think Silva right now. I think Madadi might be a good underdog pick on this. Like you said, he has knockout power.
Yes, he does. He stuns people and he has good ground and pound and he's a gritty fighter. He's never in there trying to get just a gimme win. He just can't. He sits on his punches a little too much at times and loops. And if you're a good striker, you can definitely time that. And I think that Silva is that skilled of a striker. I feel like people are going to be coming in a little bit more on the decision side with it just because of the youth. Just the way that Madani has looked. Like, he is gassed by the end of every fight, though. You can see he's been in a war. Silva might be one of those scary young talents. He's only 26 years old.
Joe Duffy and Norman Park are nothing to snuff about losses as far as Madadi's losses.
The caliber of fighter.
Joe Duffy.
Agree. That's a very good point. And I am overlooking that because
a Joe Duffy decision. That is
Joe Duffy's a good up-and-comer. Definitely a tough fight. And
to me, Joe Duffy's a harder fight than Joaquim Silva.
You can call him also Neto BJJ is his nickname. So Neto, on the ground, will he be able to defend the ground and pound? I think that wrestling style, like we've said, is the counteraction to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu at times. And I think the striking is going to play the bigger role. So, fun fight. I am excited for that one. It's going to be interesting either way to see where those guys go. Moving on to the next fight at 185 pounds, we have Chris Camozzi versus Trevor Smith. And this is an almost loser leaves town kind of situation. Camozzi's on a 2-fight losing streak, one of those being against Jacare Souza to get back into the UFC, and you can't give him, like, he knew what he was doing. He was taking one for the team, and they gave him another fight, and he lost that fight against Thales Leites. Actually, he didn't fight Souza, or he already had 3 fights in between then? Tom Watson's decisions? Interesting. So, I'm totally overskipping that, but he has 2 losses in a row. Chris Camozzi does against Leites, which just beat our boy, Spartan, by a decision. Leites is not an easy guy, and then he also lost the decision to Dan Kelly, which I believe we had an underdog, but that's because people overlooked.
People always overlook Dan Kelly.
Exactly. So those aren't the worst losses. Trevor Smith, I've always been not a fan of.
Me either, but the guy is good though. Well, to me, he's looked good his last few fights.
He proves that he has a good chin in every fight, and that only that eventually. But Chris Camozzi has never had knockout power. Like, how many people does Chris Camozzi knock out? Not many.
No one.
And exactly. So Trevor Smith does have a good grind on him, pace, and Chris Camozzi can be a ground out where he kind of gives up position and is like, okay, you're beating me. Like, he doesn't have an urgency to get up necessarily all the time, and that can be his biggest default, or he can be put on his back. Trevor Smith,
I think Camozzi right now he's a favorite, and I don't think he should be. I think Trevor Smith is one of those guys that he's not necessarily exciting. He's not exciting to look at. He looks like he'd be your chemistry teacher. It surprises me. I always go against the guy just because of this. Everything you're saying, I tend to always lead toward Chris Camozzi because I just like him. I'm going against my... I think Chris Camozzi is a more exciting fighter all the way around for the UFC. And I think he's also fought in some battles. He has a bigger name. Trevor Smith, people would say he's a boring fighter. I'm going against all my normal trends, and I'm going with Trevor Smith by decision.
I like it.
I think he out-cardios him. I think he's a little more exciting. I think he's technically sound. I do think he gets reckless with his punches sometimes, but I've just noticed that a lot less. He fights a good amount of times. He fights like 4 times a year.
Yeah.
You know,
They're
not really memorable, or they're on beginnings of really memorable nights.
He gets in some scraps. Scraps, so it's a back and forth in most fights that he has.
He has gotten knocked out by Magalas. But that was clean.
Yep.
Clean knockout. It's one of those ones that you can't judge somebody's career by a knockout that anyone would have knocked out anyone.
Exactly.
So
agreed.
Chris Camozzi, he's the guy I just see that he is closer to the end of his ride here and the UFC. I think it's funny. I think Trevor Smith is the guy that maybe he's never sold a ticket except to his family for the organization. But I just think Yeah, like you're saying, Chris Camozzi doesn't have the same cardio.
It's been proven just time and time and time. He has a style that just doesn't benefit him if it goes to the ground, and I think Trevor Smith can get him to the ground. But I
think Dorian Smith decision right now for me. And
I have Camozzi decision, but we're talking me out of it. I think you're making a good point. I think these are very good points because it's true.
It's like your instincts want to always go against Trevor Smith. Look at your voting record for Trevor Smith. I'm going to look at mine. I don't think I've ever picked for him, and he always gets me. Like, just because he's so unexciting to, like, look at, listen to.
Agree. And he always gets in a fight where I'm like, oh, I can't put any money on him because he gets hit. And he shows it. He never goes out. Well, rarely goes out, but he gets hit a lot. But he does fight a lot. There is something to be said for that. Like, he is trying to be competitor in there and is always looking for a fight. He's not backing down from fights. It's a good quality to have. It breaks people. I don't know if Chris Camozzi gets broken. Well, yeah.
I think Chris Camozzi went in against the worst Dan Kelly that I've seen in a while.
Interesting.
Like, I don't even think that was the best Dan Kelly that we've seen. So, Trevor Smith. I know it's an unpopular opinion.
I think you got an underdog, but that'll be really good for the night on that. I think that there is really valid points. I am going to go with Chris Camozzi a bit more. Always hoping that he's going to be able to get his takedowns in order, or take down the fence in order, because he is the more technical striker, but Trevor Smith does have a little pop in his punches. He does hurt people. He doesn't always knock them out, but he puts people in also. He hurts them as much as they hurt him.
He's not great at anything, but he's, like, on a scale of 1 to 10, he's like a 7 at everything.
Yeah.
He's a weird, dangerous guy.
B fighter.
He's like water. I think or sand. He's going to find your hole in your game, and he creeps in there.
A lot of takedowns. I think his takedowns are going to play a big role in that. I'm going with Camozzi decision still, but that's a fun fight. The more and more I look at it on this card.
I say Camozzi takes round 1, Trevor Smith takes 2 and 3.
Ooh,
2 will be close. Trevor Smith will win. Twitter will be like, that's bullshit. Chris Camozzi should have had that fight.
It always happens. always.
And I'll be like, I thought Trevor Smith had it.
Yep.
I don't know if I'm being biased because I have Trevor Smith on everything.
I think
that's right
totally
now. That's how I feel about it.
So moving on to the next fight at bantamweight 135 pounds, we have Pedro Munoz versus Damian Sasaki. This is a really fun fight just because I'm a fan of Pedro Munoz.
Me too.
I think he looked great in his last few fights, all the way around. Striking, on the ground. He submitted Scoggins, where it was also Scoggins' IQ in that, where everyone knows that Munoz has a sick guillotine. Like, he finishes a lot of fights out of guillotine. And he kept shooting double leg takedowns where your neck is exactly where it needs to be for a guillotine. And Munoz, everyone kept saying he should back out of there and wouldn't keep the striking because Munoz was starting to get beat by a very high level striker in Scoggins. But either way, I think it's testament to Munoz seeing options and being intelligent, and he put himself in that situation. And I think that Munoz can get it to the ground, can beat Sasaki, who's just not had the level of competition that he's fought in. David Grant is his best win, decision via armbar. But what we've seen with some of these, even though it's a Polish fighter, is it Stasiak? Am I pronouncing
Stasiak. Stasiak. Damian Stasiak.
Webster?
I like that.
Okay, Webster. We can go with Webster. That's way more easier. So
Webster Stasiak.
I think Webster is a 10-3 fighter, 27 years old, out of Poland. Like, he's gonna be dangerous. His ground game is definitely.
I'm always scared of a Polish fighter. He,
though, like I was saying a little bit, is Munoz is beating top level guys, and Webster is beating more European circuit guys who have tend to always just lack to some of the Western fighters. And usually a lot of these guys come over to the States to get better, where you don't see many of our fighters going over there unless they're going to open a gym and make a career post-fighting kind of thing is what happens.
I don't know. Europe right now, Connor, Bisping, Ngannou.
Okay. But no, Ngannou's in New York.
Isn't he fighting out of Europe right now?
No.
Oh, he just moved to Vegas. You're right.
He moved to Vegas. He doesn't have a camp yet.
what's that right now? To me, it's all hype, but I know he's popular. Manawa.
Yeah, he's
They
out
have
of there.
some people out of Europe, but they're all at different camps. All the people I just named.
Exactly. There's no hub where here you can go to Florida or Cali.
I agree.
New York.
I think Pedro is the young Punisher. Munoz is in the. I think we're about to see the prime of this kid's career. Like, I think we're about to see him find what makes him great about his fighter. He's about to hone all his techniques. I think we're getting into that sweet spot for him. Right. And I don't think Stasiak has nearly the experience to deal with it. And so this is one of the only finishes I have tonight. A lot of them that I have decisions, but I have Munoz submission round 1. I think right when they're dry, I think it's going to be quick work. Quick work, kids.
I think Webster is going to want to go to the ground because that tends to be his ground game, but he's going to be unpleasantly
it's going to be next
surprised
level
because his striking isn't where he is necessarily that good. But Polish fighters have all the ability to train with the best people, but the takedown is going to play a big role in that. Minus 600 favorite, you might be okay.
If you can afford him in the night, you put him on something.
Exactly. I think that it's pretty solid why he's that big of a favorite. I feel like it's justified. We have moving on to the 170-pound division with Nordine Taleb versus Oliver Enep. And there is no nickname for this.
In camp.
Oliver.
In camp. Oliver in camp.
Oliver Enkamp. So, is Enkamp debuting in the UFC? He is. He was fighting out of a promotion in Europe. He is a big underdog at a minus 400 or a plus 400 favorite where
Taleb has experience.
Same as we were talking before. He lost to Ponzinibbio decision. Ponzinibbio's put out better fighters than Taleb, but Taleb has been put out randomly by a couple other fighters. He did beat Eric Silva. Warley Alves, the submission guillotine choke.
Eric Silva, not a great win in my eyes.
I agree with that.
I don't know. He doesn't have that impressive of a UFC win record now that I'm looking at it.
And on the show, he was always the biggest underperformer because he came through the Canada circuit, and he's always been a tri-star guy, and he's always been in the gym a top contender, but it's never really... The wins that he has had are decisions. He was only finished Silva, but Silva was the poster boy for post-PEDs and trying to go clean, like the pictures we had of him. So Silva gassed in the first round, and Taleb got hurt many times. It was really exciting of a fight. But Taleb losing to Ponzinibbio. Ponzinibbio isn't that bad of a fighter. Taleb's way more technical on the feet. That's where he comes from. That with that tri-star, his jab's going to be on point. I think that this is going to be a decision, Taleb. I just don't see the decision happening for Enkamp at all. I just think all the way around in any position, Taleb's going to been there, done that, and prove it. And this guy's just he's getting into the UFC, and they said, do you want to fight Taleb? And they could have said, do you want to fight whoever? Yes, he's going to agree. He doesn't care. He's getting that second fight under his belt.
Taleb's warming up against harder guys in TriStar Gym than he's going to have in this. I think it's a grind because Taleb's not a finisher. I think he's just going to injure the kid enough and take his cardio on a ride that it's going to be for this kid. Not that I don't know him at all or well enough. Exactly. I just think we've seen the story over and over again. And this will be the match that we see as the loss, 5 matches back that we're like, oh yeah, that was his first fight in the UFC. They never have any idea of what kind of cardio they're getting into. Fighting in the UFC, the pace that it pushes, how much of your cardio and adrenaline you waste just walking into the ring because of walking into the lights for the first time. Taleb's done that over and over and over again. It's nothing new for him. It'll be a big deal for this kid, and I think a lot of the time, but we also see that adrenaline sometimes turn on, like the shit Wolverine shoots at himself at the end of Logan. So who knows, but I also I don't think we're going to see a finish in this fight. Taleb decision.
Exactly.
Moving on.
So, we have a middleweight bout at 185 pounds. Jack Hermansson versus Alex Nicholson. This is a Swedish fighter in Hermansson versus an American Floridian local boy out of Orlando. He's
O-Town?
He's fighting out of the UFC.
I don't care about
gym.
Orlando. If we have fans in Orlando and you love it, then good at you.
Yep.
But I don't like that traffic. I ain't a traffic person.
This is a near even. This is a split decision type of a fight. I mean, this is minus 115 for Hermanson and minus 105 for Nicholson. They're both 28 for Hermanson, 27 for Nicholson. I think that the quality of fighter that Nicholson's training with is going to be much higher. But Hermanson has looked good. He beat Scott Askham, who was an up-and-comer in the UFC. His last loss is to Cesar Fiera in a triangle, which we thought that Fiera was shot on his chin, but if he gets you to the ground, he can submit you, and he proved that. And the fact that Hermanson wasn't able to get him out of there, it just proves that he doesn't have that much power, in my eyes, and he tends to decision fighters, and I think that this is a really close decision of a fight. I think that Nicholson can always make a grinding battle. He gets hurt, puts a pace on you, will walk through punches to give a punch, and anywhere the fight goes, I think he can kind of win the positions. Hermanson does tend to go to the ground, and against American fighters, some of these rolling things in the regional scenes that they have don't necessarily work unless you're with top level gyms, and we don't know if Frontline Academy is a top level gym out of Sweden. I'm sorry, I haven't done my research, and I bet you that if you're training anywhere in Florida, you can have a pro at your door within a week. Within 2 days, you could have somebody drive down in a day, get on, like there's organizations down the street from us, and we're a little bit of ways. But I think that Nicholson's actually going to end up taking this fight in a decision. I'm thinking a split decision. It's going to be a grinding bout. I think it's going to be a little bit boring. I think people are going to boo for this, honestly. It's just the type of fight that Nicholson tends to get into, and Hermanson can get put into those bad positions, and I don't think he'll win them, and they'll just kind of stay in a ground and pound position for 3 rounds. Nicholson.
All Nicholson showed me in his last fight is that he could take the power of Sam Alvey for the first round, that Sam Alvey's dangerous, and Sam Alvey is zero grinder, and he lost against Sam Alvey. I will say, okay, you had a good chin, but I do remember in that fight clearly, like, Sam Alvey never getting a clear punch. Like, never getting, like, that clean Sam Alvey smile and shot. I like Jack Hermanson. I think he has more potential. I don't know his gym, but I also don't know UFC of Winter Springs.
Exactly. Truth.
So I am going the other way with this. It's near even. It's a sketchy fight. I don't think it's worth a lot of points. I think we're going to see some punch, standing grind. Punch, standing grind. We might get a takedown here and there. I'll even say whoever gets the takedown in round 1 will probably be the person that has the hardest time for round 2 and 3 because it'll be an ugly takedown. So I'm going to go the other way on this. I'm probably going to stay away from this fight, but I'm going to go with Hermanson decision.
I like it. I think that it's going to be a split. I think a split decision is a good call on that fight. It's going to be a fun one. So, moving on to the next fight at welterweight, we have the Al-Sahan or Judo Thunder.
Abdulrazak Al-Hassan versus Amari Akhmedov.
So, Akhmedov definitely comes in with the credentials of a long career. He has over 5 fights in the UFC. He's lost to top competitors in Sergio Moraes. And then the weird loss was the knees to Zalski, who was a debuter, I believe, short notice kind of guy. He got thrown off, and then he came back and won a decision versus Kyle Noak. With Kyle Noak is kind of fading, I feel like, in his career a bit more. But Akhmedov is definitely a Dagestani fighter. He fights a lot like Ali Bagatinov, and he fights
like anyone with the last name Babaldov.
Yeah, exactly. You know what you're getting, a wrestling kind of a grinder.
Akhmedov, Nurmagomedov,
Aliagov,
Serkinov.
So, This is definitely Judo Thunder is a big favorite in this. And he's coming off of a knockout finish over Charlie Ward, who took, I believe, he also beat, well, at a Legacy, he has a career of knockouts, and at a Bellator, the judo really plays a good role in his top game. He can get you, throw you. I feel like his strikes are really... He's at a team takedown out of Arlington, Texas, but Ghana is his home, so he's one of these guys that's moved to America, but maybe he did his training camp more at home, but just calls this training camp here. The fact that Akhmedov, with the credentials that he has, is a minus 200 underdog, a lot of people like what they're seeing with the Judo Thunder. A lot of people like his striking style. He's a heavy favorite to knock out even, and he has a lot of tape that you can see. He's been knocking out a lot of people, but I think Akhmedov is going to be my underdog decision of the night. I feel like I understand the striking. I think spinning kicks and all that craziness happens with Judo Thunder. But I think that Dagestani wrestling, and I'm going to go with the wrestling, is going to take over. And I think that the opponents that the Dagestani fighter has faced have definitely put him in a better position where Judo Thunder is going to be like breathing heavy by the first round, the end of the first round. If the Russian fighter gets out of the first round, he wins this fight. So I have decision. I have a big underdog, two minus 200 underdog of the night, but I think the decision's in line for it.
Well, I just think then we can solidify probably that Akhmedov will be our Leslie Smith underdog pick of the week.
Damn.
Because I also have Akhmedov decision on this. I don't think Alhassan has proven anything to us yet in the UFC, where we've seen everything from Akhmedov that we need to see. The knees that knocked him out would knock out anyone.
Yeah, exactly.
And when people get knocked out like that, I don't base a whole career on that unless you're Chris Weidman. So I feel like, and also what no one's talking about here, which I think we've gone into on previous shows, Sergio Moraes to me is an up and coming MF.
Title contender.
So I feel like that knockout, it's the knockout we want to see from. If you're going to get knocked out in your career, you want it to be the guy that's climbing up the ranks, to me, like Sergio Moraes. So I don't think Alhassan has nearly the gas tank. I think we're going to see him give up, and I have Akhmedov decision. If not, Akhmedov finished by ground and pound round 3, dependent on that gas tank. But I think I'm not even worried about the kicks. You know what a kick gets you in the UFC when you go against a wrestler? A takedown. A takedown. So I think we're going to see this over and over again, where I think Akhmedov might give us the more points than we've seen him give us before because of the amount of takedowns. And he has good cardio. I don't think he's even going to have to worry about the kicks afterwards. I think the knees from Sergio Moraes.
Wow.
Wow,
I thought I was going to get you with this one because I tend to go with the favorite because it's hard for me to not see
I tend to go with the blank dov. Whatever I tend to, unless you're going against El Kukui. Just saying. Just saying.
You mean
just
Russian
saying.
Kryptonite?
Yep. That's a perfect way to put it.
So, we are moving on to the next fight at welterweight, 170 pounds. We have Ben Saunders versus Peter Sabata. Ben Saunders is definitely the much more credentialed fighter, has had a long career in the UFC and out of the UFC, coming from... He's not a TriStar, he's a 10th Planet disciple. He uses a lot of that heavy X guard, high guard, a lot of his legs up, threatening with a lot of really good chokes. His last win is a decision over Court McGee, and Court McGee's known to be a grinder, so we know Ben Saunders can grind. Ben Saunders, though, is worst enemy. He's also a local Florida boy. Sometimes his mind game sometimes he can't get out of his own head, and that's where he said he said it himself, like, travel. This is going to be somewhere where he's going to be fighting at a weird time in Europe. It doesn't benefit him. He is fighting with the best fighters in the world at American Top Team. If you were with anybody else, you can't be with anyone better. I feel like we've talked about that fairly enough. Sabata is fighting out of Germany. He's also 30 years old. He's out of Planet Eater. And his last win is over Nicholas Dalby decision, which we just had another fighter who had a draw over Nicholas Dalby. So Nicholas Dalby fights to his competitions.
Nicholas Dunby.
So he has a loss. His previous loss was the Kyle Nope TKO punches, but I feel like that was a short notice fight that Sabata actually came into, even though he was already in the UFC. Sabata has been fighting for the UFC this is going to be his fifth fight, and he decisioned Pollock, who really wasn't anything. Steve Kennedy as well has kind of undershown, but a grinding kind of a wrestler, and I think Sabata likes to take it to the ground, and that's where Ben Saunders shines. Like, put Ben Saunders on his back. You're gonna get Slender Man creeping all over you, and you're gonna get that
rubber god,
exactly.
yo. You got that rubber god.
You're gonna have rubber band all over you, and
You gotta hit it and quit it.
Ben Saunders is gonna win via submission round 1 or 2. I'm leaning more towards 2. And he is actually a near even at a -120. How do you feel about this fight?
I have Ben Saunders' decision. I think, to me, I've never voted against Ben Saunders. I've usually voted for him to finish. I see him more as a decision guy now. I believe his education in UFC is the only reason when he talks about his mental issues was against Cote, which, being even a naive fan of UFC, Cote would get in my head too. That guy's a legend already.
Yeah, I can see
so
that, totally.
I feel like that's really the only showing that we've seen of him where we've seen issues. I think he goes out there. His striking's getting better and better.
Yep.
I think his fallback now is becoming the rubber guard, which he's so dangerous at, and that makes him next level. Ben Saunders has to get into his sweet spot. It's kind of now or never.
Agreed.
For him, if he's going to make any sort of run.
I totally agree with that.
He needs a finish if he's ever going to get on a main card. So he has to be hungry for a finish. I just don't think... I think Sabata's going to be a little better on the ground than anyone gives him credit for. So I just see it going to decision. I don't think it's going to be a super exciting fight. Ben Saunders always seems to be a letdown. He's been expensive time and time again. I put him on cards, and he just never racks up the points in his numbers.
I think that's a great point. Great point. If we're going to think about DK, Saunders has submitted a couple guys early, but I think Sabata can withstand for a time. That's why I was thinking Ben Saunders submission round 2, because it might take him a little bit to figure out. But Sabata holds his own on the ground. I'm thinking it's going to be a ground fight, and the over 2.5 rounds is going to be a good bet for that fight. Moving on to the next fight, we have the co-main event with Misha Shirkinov versus Volkan Ozdemir. Easy to say that Shirkinov is up and coming in the division. We've had our eye on Shirkinov since he came in. He's been submitting everyone
except the UFC.
They almost got rid of him with Bellator. They let him go, and then they finally put in an offer worth it. And it's some of the only really good up and talent where you're like, give him 2 more fights and he's going to be ready for the title contention and to be a real contender. He can take people to the ground and pound them. You know what's going to come with Shirkinov. He's going to try to get you to the ground. His striking can be a little stiff, but he has power. Cousin, is that his nickname? Cousin beat OSP via split decision 3 months ago. OSP gassed horribly in that fight, but we know that he does. And OSP has credentials. I mean, OSP is not the absolute worst, but guess who freaking Ozdemir has been training with? Black Zillions.
Love the Black Zillions.
So he's definitely been in the States. He probably goes back and forth, and is probably training a lot of these guys will train at home a little bit earlier because they have places to be, and then they can come in by train or whatever they do, instead of doing the flying straight from Florida to here in 24 hours and then fighting, or 2 weeks or a week of me. I mean, I think that their preparation prior to this kind of stuff does help. Shirkinov is the local, well, he's out of Canada, so not local at all. He's also flying out of Toronto, and I just see an overmatched fighter right now. Shurkanov has been looking amazing. As we've been saying, he can get the fight to the ground against top level guys. Did he break a fighter's jaw? Was he the guy? Yeah, sure. We talk about it all the time. He popped his jaw out of his socket with a choke over the chin. Over the chin. Usually want to get under, and that's when we say fight's over. It's under the chin. Well, he doesn't care. He will squeeze, and he looks like a specimen. I mean, he looks like
to me, OSP is overrated. I'm not taking any credentials for Ozdemir. I think Ozdemir is in the Blackzilians gym to train them up because he's such a heavy fighter. So I just don't think Serkinov, he's next level.
I agree.
He is next level. He was really one of the only guys I was really sad about the UFC letting go. I'm happy to see him back. I think this is a perfect way to do it. I think it's a quick finish. I have round 1 submission.
I have round 3 submission. I am giving Ozdemir a bit of credentials. I could see that going to round 2. I think Shurkanov can take a little bit of time to find his rhythm sometimes, and I'm giving the other fighter a little bit of respect. I do think though it's a finish for Shurkanov all the way around. I think that it's gonna be another showing for him, and it's gonna be another highlight to his reel, another finish at the very least.
Like a Louboutin shoe, expensive on DraftKings, but worth it.
Yeah, totally agree. So, moving on to the main event, we have Alexander Gustafsson versus Glover Teixeira. I mean, both veterans, they're headlining. I believe Glover, his only loss in his last run that he had was to Johnson in a 35-second uppercut that his tooth flew out of. And then he beat a decision over Cannonier. Cannonier is somewhat an up-and-comer, but I feel like they fed Cannonier to Teixeira. Teixeira is a much higher fighter and was fighting for the championship not long ago and actually did well. He comes in with a very basic game plan. He tends to stay up boxing even though he has the ground credentials, but he's powerful, but he can loop at times in his punches. And Alexander the Mauler Gustafsson is a crisp striker. He definitely has lost to only the top level of the UFC in Anthony Johnson and Daniel Cormier. Split decision in Daniel Cormier. And then decision to John Jones, giving John Jones arguably one of the hardest fights that we've been able to see.
A different John Jones.
Exactly. So his last fight against Jan Blachowicz was his last win with 2 prior losses to, again, Daniel Cormier and Anthony Johnson, those are the top 1 and 2 at that time. Blachowicz, I believe, was overmatched. Gustafsson did look vintage Gustafsson.
Was it the Dan Cormier fight for a title?
Yeah, I think it was an interim belt. And, I mean, we know Cormier is that top level of that division other than...
1 year, 7 months ago. That was right before... 1 year, 7... Was it for 2 years? We're coming up on 2 years. John Jones would have been holding the belt at that time, right? Because we're just coming up on the 2 years, and John Jones had the belt till he left.
Right.
At least for that last year.
Yeah, and I believe John Jones was the belt, but...
I don't think there was interim yet.
Right.
So,
I think Gustafsson might have been going for an interim belt with Cormier because John Jones had gotten out.
Not yet.
No? Okay. My timeline.
Maybe not. No,
right,
maybe
right.
mine's totally off because a year, 7 months ago... Yeah, that was the fight right before John Jones fell out.
Yeah. But because they
really all my question is which it's a big thing for me right now with Gustafsson's career because it's just been he's just gone against guys at weird times. Was that a 5-round with Cormier? Because then I have him all day. But if that was a 3-round with Cormier, then his last couple fights to me aren't that impressive, and his whole career is based on the John Jones fight. That was a different John Jones.
That's what his career has been based on.
Yeah, and so now I'm like, is he Holly Holmes? Is he the Holly Holmes of this division where it's like his whole career is based on that highlight reel?
I mean, the decision of Blachowicz didn't look amazing. Blachowicz is underrated, but it was
I agree with
overmatched in
you.
that fight. And the thing that is scary to me in this fight is that Blachowicz stayed in it with his wrestling, and Gustafsson kind of started to really, where he got away from his striking, and I feel like Blachowicz kind of hurt him a bit, so it kept him off of it, where you want Gustafsson to be moving forward. But with Teixeira, he can push you up against the fence, and that's a good game. He does that a lot. He'll push you up in the fence and do a lot of dirty boxing, but he also is a good counter striker. So
It was a 5-round
yeah, I felt like it was
title challenge.
Yep. And Gustafsson was in it, but he can be proven to be out-wrestled, and Teixeira can shine on the cage. He'll put you right up against the cage, and he was trying to do it to Anthony Johnson, and that's why he was ducking his head and putting it in, and Johnson threw that uppercut. But if 101 Teixeira get you on the cage, try to get you to the ground, he has good top control. But I think his counter-striking's undervalued. I don't see Gustafsson being as big a favorite as he is. He is a minus 330 favorite. I feel like Teixeira can really make this a grind, and it can go a 5-round decision and be split. But Gustafsson has come to the States, gotten better at wrestling. I think Teixeira's career is more on the decline, and if Gustafsson can't get over Teixeira, I don't know where he goes next. He has many other fights, but this is a main event. I mean,
This is the main event.
this is a 5-rounder as well. All main events are 5 rounds. So I think Gustafsson is going to win this fight. I do see the finish. I see the finish coming in the 3rd round, just because I feel like he has a really good jab. His wrestling's on point. I do think he could give up the first round or two, though, up against the cage, but he does have heart, and Gustafsson doesn't give up in a fight. I mean, Anthony Johnson beat the living daylights out of him before they finally called the fight. Like, it wasn't easy. Against Cormier to get a split decision, no, not many people do that. The Blachowicz decision was a little bit of a stylistic nightmare for him, but I think that we gotta I think it's too much. It needs to be more of like a minus 175 for Gustafsson. There's no value in Gustafsson at this money, with Teixeira being as a real threat. He's just on the downslide of his career.
Oh, I agree with everything that you just said. I'm just wondering. I think Teixeira has a better chin than you think. Anthony Johnson can knock out anyone. Teixeira is a grinder. He's at American Top Team right now. There's got to be something to come out of that camp at this weight. There's got to be something. It's got to be him.
You know who he's training with? Dos Santos.
And Rashad.
Yeah.
Which, what have we seen out of them? They get knocked out in the first round.
Right.
I don't know. Right now I have Teixeira decision. I don't know why.
I could see that's a total, as I was saying, like, he does, anybody who steps in there with Anthony Johnson could get knocked out.
Gustafsson's height is what gives him such good takedown defense, and I want to think that him. I'm changing it right now. I'm going Gustafsson, knockout round 4. Teixeira's cardio scares me, and the number one reason I'm changing it is if you go to decision with DC in a grind, you can do it with Teixeira. And
Totally.
I feel like if your name's not Anthony Johnson or Daniel Cormier or John Jones,
exactly,
then
100%.
your name is Gustafsson, and where do we end up with this division that just waits for some young blood to start stepping up? So, and I think Gustafsson is the forever gatekeeper. So Gustafsson KO round 4. Teixeira will get winded, and
I think the dynamicness is more in Alexander Gustafsson's if he's flowing. But if he does, Teixeira can stop that flow. He does make it a grind. I think your initial points, without you changing it, are valid, and yeah, betting odds are off on that.
so both of us agree Akhmedov is the value play.
Value play of the day.
Value play of the day. Leslie Smith, underdog pick of the week. What else is going on in UFC? I don't know anything. I think we covered the gamut. Really right after we got off air, so much stuff broke last week.
Yeah, it was unbelievable, but it's good for us, and it's going to keep us talking.
Once we get our YouTube channel up and going, Maybe we'll bring you 2 shows a week, but we'll just start with 1. But hopefully that'll be happening by maybe episode 60. We're going to go ahead and put it out there as we'll try to make it that goal. That we'll be having a little YouTube station. So if you feel like sitting and watching us chit-chat at a table with our microphones, you can have the option of doing that as well.
Remember to follow us
On Twitter at LesboandTheBean or lesboandthebean.com.
Lesbo the Bean.